Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us at this Fireside chat with Danske Bank. I can promise you a brand new experience today because we do not have any slides. No slides at all, we'll just talk. I hope we can cope. But for this session we are exploring how one of the most trusted banks are modernizing its payroll and HR operations through a shift to a global cloud platform, all while maintaining a strong focus on quality, compliance, and control. My name is Leth, and I'm working as a key account manager at Zalaris HR Services in Denmark. And with me on the stage, I have two representatives from Danske Bank, Janne Pedersen and Kasper Willemann. And I think we should kick it off, by you two presenting yourself and your role in Danske Bank.
Ladies first.
Ladies first, always, Kasper.
Yes.
I know that. Thank you. My name is Janne. I'm head of HR services in the Nordics in Danske Bank, which means I'm responsible for the HR operations in Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. And then we also have a large shared service center based in Lithuania, where we also run a big part of our daily operations.
Yes, and I'm Kasper. I'm sitting in our HR leadership team in Danske Bank and particularly focusing on our HR technology from a business point of view. So I have a partner luckily that knows a lot more than me about the technology side of it, but have the responsibility to prioritize, make decisions on where to go and so forth, which is also one of the topics for today. That's the short intro.
Yes, and for those who are less familiar with Danske Bank, could you give a brief overview of the organization and perhaps of your HR and payroll landscape, Janne?
Yes, we are approximately 20,000 employees in total in Danske Bank, of which 16,000 are based in the Nordics, with 12,000 of those are sitting in Denmark. Up until 4 years ago, we had several payroll vendors. We had, in 4 countries, we had 4 different. To be honest, we actually had the same payroll vendor in Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. That was not something that we could feel in our daily operations because it was literally like dealing with 3 different vendors in our daily work. 4 years ago, we were actually forced to change our payroll setup in Sweden due to some GDPR incompliance with the vendor we had then. We made a deal with Zalaris and we implemented in quite a short time a payroll solution there. It worked really well, so we decided to go into a more structured approach, more strategic approach on how to deal with our payroll vendor landscape. So May this year, we implemented in Denmark for 12,000 employees. Next up is Finland. We have just kicked off the project. And hopefully, if Kasper shows me the money, we can actually move on with Norway and also hopefully with Lithuania. So the aim is basically to go from a payroll vendor landscape of 4 different vendors into one strategic partnership. This is not just about what I would like to call the pineapple in own juice, because of course in an operational setup it's much easier to deal with just one vendor. You only have to argue with one person and you can actually make some really good demands and you become a prioritized customer and everything. For me, the most important thing is actually that we make lives easier for the organization. So, as things were before, also having the responsibility for employees in 4 different countries, I don't have one overview of holidays that are left or held or payouts or bonuses or absences or illness data or anything like that, because I need to go into various systems. We have some really super cool people working in Danske with that have made dashboards for all managers to use. But when you deal with different vendors, you don't necessarily get the right data back. Some people give you apples and others give you bananas. And you can't really visualize data like that to managers. So that's actually another thing. Apart from being, we have an app now and people can actually do what they need to do while they're getting their coffee anyway, which does take 25 seconds to make because it's real coffee. So, yeah.
Okay, Kasper, have you anything to add about, the background or the scope of this transformation?
I think like Janne said, first of all, we have the Nordic, at least the scope that we're looking at and different vendors and so on, but also focusing in on Denmark. We basically had a setup of a mix of home-built systems. Some of them went back to the last millennium, 1999, and when I did some change management, I realized that's when the original Nokia phone was released, right? So our user interface basically with our employees was from that time. So we definitely had that, and it was honestly a bit of a joke, being Danske Bank and home of mobile pay and so on, and then you get new employees in and you show them this gray screen with a squared cursor that stands there blinking. And you need, some of us have been here in Danske Bank for a long time. We know those, 5-digit codes that you need to navigate and so on. But it was, it didn't work. It was literally a joke to have that.
And never press enter.
Exactly. And the other part of it was that, again, because of all these data issues and so on in the mix with our former vendor, but also all this home-built stuff, tons of patches built over several years, we basically every month were very, what's going to happen now? 1 month, one area got double salaries, the next month our CEO didn't get paid, and so on. It was a mess. So. Yeah. We had definitely come to a point where we need to do something about it, and that's when we made that decision to move forward with this project.
But this has also been quite a change, changing vendor, changing systems, not just the payroll, but also time and HR, which is a quite significant impact on a lot of employees. So, how did you gain, buy-in from the rest of the organization?
Yeah, so the change management part. Well, again, it's one of these change management tasks that is not as difficult as some of the others, right? Because people are basically laughing at our own solution, and we could show them an app that actually looks modern and so forth. So to that sense. But then I think you get into more of the details. And so people wanted it, which is a good first step. But I think we've also learned that there are a million questions that people might have that you don't realize when you do this. So the approach we took was basically a relatively, I would say, light implementation. We had, of course, some written communications. We invited for a lot of, voluntary sessions where you could come and hear what's going to happen and ask some questions and so forth. But no more than that. And then I think we have been, surprised maybe to some extent at the level of questions that people have. But I also, could you have done it differently? Yes, we could, of course. But we are also in that setup where people don't read the material you send out. They don't take the e-learnings and so forth. So I'm not sure it could have been handled a lot differently. We're now 6 months into the implementation, or 5 or something. And we are slowly getting there where we are massaging both individuals but also entire business units that have questions. Why are you doing it like that and so forth? So it's a lot of dialogue that we need to take also still.
Yes, and I actually think that's probably the most valuable learning that I would give to any of you in this room. If you're embarking on a similar journey, do not underestimate the value of change management and the time required. And not saying that we could have done it much differently, but I think maybe we did underestimate the strength of old habits sometimes. So yes, I like the new system, but I would like to use it the way I used the old one. So please change the new system to work the same way as the old one.
That's not always like it. It's working. But staying a little bit on that topic, because nowadays leadership, HR leadership is much about, it plays a vital and strategic role in almost every organization. And I was just wondering, from your perspective, how did you manage this leadership throughout this as a guiding change? And how did you keep the people, aligned and motivated and engaged? Perhaps on.
I think very early on, Kasper and I agreed that we would safeguard the project, safeguard our employees, make sure that they had someone to go to with all problems that they didn't know how to solve. I would say it's been fairly easy for Kasper and me because we've basically just been the people that you could come and place your problems with, and we could help out, and we could solve things for them, and we could pave the way, and also make sure that everyone all the way to the top were kept informed about progress and how things were done. So we didn't really take part in the very, very hard work that has been going on down on the floor with everyone who's been really working hard on this. But I think the most important thing between IT, operations, business, whatever you choose to call it in your organizations, is trust. So we have an extremely good and trust-based relationship, Kasper and me. He's my most important stakeholder. I'm his most important stakeholder. Obviously, Kasper. And I think we both know that we can always call each other, and we can actually have a very open conversation, making sure that we're both aligned, that we have agreed on the approach, and then we trust that that's the approach that we're also bringing to the rest of the organization. And also with Kasper's, in his part of the organization, with a direct entry to ELT, and with my direct access to people leading the entire operational organization in Danske Bank, we have actually been able to just, very good way ensure that we have covered everything during the project in a very good manner. And I think it has also, been a strength in the project with you, with Zalaris, that we have actually had that sort of, this is how we want to work. So we want to work with trust, we want to work with, good collaboration, ensuring that everybody is that they feel safe and confident, that they can bring everything to the table, and it doesn't mean that you're always right, but at least you can, place your worries and concerns, and we'll talk about it.
I think another thing that just comes to mind is not to also underestimate actually that we are also in a certain point of time, and actually some of the sort of developments of how we work has been in the making for at least 5-6 years or something, both how we are organized, but also really highlighting the importance of standardized and simple. I remember 5-6 years ago where we put it in some slides, but every time we actually had something, it was always, well, I want it like this and I want it like that. Whereas today, it's really a super powerful argument. Is this the standard way? Is this how the vendor have, designed the product? And if not, then we need to change our ways of working.
Yes, change the process, not the...
We've had a lot of those, and we have a lot of special requirements and ways of doing things over the last 20, 30 years, where we've needed to, engage with legal, business, operations, and so on to say, well, you used to have it like this. That's no longer possible. You can have it like this or maybe like that, but that's what it is you can choose from. And I think that's really a very different place we are at now, where that is super helpful.
And actually one of the guiding principles that we agreed on in our very first DIRCO meeting. So when we had the first DIRCO meeting, when we set up this project on transforming the Danish payroll, we set up a set of guidelines that everybody in this DIRCO committed to ensure that we were on the same page, and that was one of them. Make sure that we do not change anything in the system unless it's a legal requirement. So every time we have asked for a change, we have all, looked at it and agreed this is a legal requirement. There's no way around it. So, and then we could go to Zalaris and say, this is a legal requirement, and you have promised us to actually live up to all legal requirements. So we actually, by doing that and aligning on that to begin with, we saved ourselves from a lot of stupid arguments that just takes time, and I want it my way and you want it your way, and we can't all have it our way. So,
but that's another point, which also I think is crucial, the collaboration between HR and IT, because you need to have a strong and reliable relationship. So how did you nurture that throughout the journey? But is it by always keeping each other informed and agree on we are moving in that direction? Or?
I think, like you said, Janne, you shouldn't underestimate the personality or whatever you call it, right? Janne and I go way back, and we have a trustful relationship and so on, and that is an element into this that you shouldn't underestimate. But we also have an organization, I think, that supports it now in Danske Bank, where we have organized every units into these so-called tribes, where you have both IT leadership and business leadership in the same team, doing priorities together, in it together, from having the idea, prioritizing, getting it done, and so forth. So it doesn't become this battle between, IT wants to do that and business wants to do this and so forth. So I think that is really a very strong reason also why we have such a relatively smooth collaboration together, that we can make those kind of
and having those
decisions.
guiding principles as the foundation, right? So we were never really in doubt about what was the right thing to do. We just needed to ensure that we all saw the world through the same eyes, and actually looked at the problem or the issue the same way, because once we agreed on that, we had the guiding principles to basically make the decision for us. So I don't think we really had any issues that ran out of control or anything. No.
Yeah, good to hear. You can sense that you're working great together, you and Janne. So now that you are kind of deep into this journey, and you mentioned there was lessons learned, apart from the one you mentioned, be careful about the change management. Are there other findings that you could share with us?
Actually, one important thing that I think I would share with this audience is make sure that you have the same vocabulary. So even though you all speak the same language, but if you're on the vendor side and then you have the operational side and you have the IT side, you might not necessarily get the same meaning out of the words that you're using in a conversation. And that's where things can sidetrack. So having that kind of curiosity, what we actually started after our first rough couple of months in the beginning of the project, where everybody was just a bit of confused and frustrated and everything, we sat down and then we basically made a dictionary of, the most used words that are confusing us, and when I say this, why don't they understand what I'm saying? And then we talked about those words, making sure that we all said, oh, that's what you mean when you say whatever it was. So having a shared language, not underestimating that you can actually eliminate a lot of problems, and make sure that you actually spend sufficient time on the planning phases. So really I would say spend twice as much time on planning the project as you expect from the beginning, because it will make things a lot easier. So that's also one of the learnings. Yeah. And we're actually using these learnings every time we then go to the next country. We evaluate, so what went well, what didn't go so well, what can we learn from this? And then we take that and we update our guiding principles and say, okay, so with the knowledge we have now, what can we actually improve in the next phase? So I would give that as a piece of advice as well.
Yeah. And now you mentioned going to the next country. My next question was about what's next up for HR and.
Yeah, but we've already launched a project to continue in Finland, and have a plan to go live. I think end of the 26th November. I think it is. So that's next in line. Then we have 3 out of 6, 7 of our major countries in the same system, and with an expectation to move on from there. Another element in parallel to this is, of course, integrations. So really starting to use the power now of the Zalaris system and having less, so integrating it much closer with our HCM system than we've been used to, which gives a lot of manual work. It gives a lot of data issues and reporting issues and so forth. So there's also still work to be done on that front.
Yeah. I think my last question is about what do you, from a personal point, think is the biggest improvement of your new systems? I know, for example, that the mobile enablement of our solution, you're very fond of that.
Yes.
And I hope it improves your daily work. What about
Anders,
you?
did you ever see our old time?
No, I didn't.
So that's probably the biggest improvement, to be honest.
Okay.
No, but I think from your
But
side,
I would actually, so that is huge. And as I also told you earlier, I mean, I meet people in the office who stop me literally and say, "You changed from this old system. What an amazing thing." And talking about a time and absence system, I don't know if that's to be expected, but that's really the big difference that this is making. But I actually think even more importantly, we were at a place, as we talked about, where we couldn't trust that people actually got paid correctly. We spent a lot of time manually to fix it, and I think most people ended up getting their pay, but that uncertainty was simply not acceptable, right? And you could argue, and back to my role also of finding the money for this, there's so many other things we could have done, which would have been cooler, and AI and skills and all of this. But really with a Maslow's pyramid approach here, if people don't get paid or just have the uncertainty, can I trust that my employer are able to pay my salaries correctly? And we are now in a completely different point from that, right? So the foundation is really in place also, which is extremely important, because that was at least in my mailbox every month from COE and CRHO and even the board and the union and all of these, right? What are you doing?
Yeah.
So that's much easier now.
Yeah. Good to hear. And that was actually my last question. You know, I kind of ran out, but thank you for your valuable insights.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're of course excited to see what the future brings. So, yeah,
great.
Thank you. It seems like you have a successful story. They are looking to implement other countries, so I would say that it was a success.
So it sounds, yeah.
Yes. Are there any questions that you would like to address? Yes, but I will need you to come in the middle to the mic.
So, I appreciate your focus on change management. It's what I do all day, every day. So I know that even when there's hunger for a change, it can be really hard to kind of embed it. So you referenced kind of little by little growing your adoption. What worked? Did you have, programs, gamified anything? Did you have leaders kind of top down say that you have to do this? So the first question is, what worked when you were on that journey and you realized it wasn't adopting the way that you thought it would? And then secondly, did you have adoption metrics in the beginning that were planned, or did you think like, oh, everyone is so hungry for this, they're just going to hop right on it? And if you didn't have adoption metrics in the beginning, did you come up with any like as you went? And then what were they? So adoption, and then how did you handle the slow uptake? Thank you. And congratulations.
Thank you.
we actually had the metric set even before the project was initiated. So we knew what we wanted to measure on once we were implemented, adoption rate being one of them. We were quite successful actually to begin with. I think And this is maybe a little bit ridiculous, but it worked. One of the things that worked the most was that on the implementation day, we served cake on all locations with a QR code on the icing of the cake. There was a QR code on each and every cupcake that you could scan with your phone and then download the app. So that actually worked so well that we ran out of licenses, which was a little bit unexpected. Most of all because we didn't know there was a limit, and there wasn't a limit on the licenses. It was some sort of security thing that exploded in the bank saying, no, people, if you have downloaded this more than 5,000 times within 24 hours, there's something wrong, so we're shutting it down. So that actually worked. I would like to use that as an example. So we did actually measure on adoption rate. Our biggest challenge now is not so much the adoption rate on downloading the app, people registering. Actually, the first 24 hours we had the new system, we had more than 4,000 registrations in the new system. That's quite a lot for 12,000 employees. So that's not the problem. Our problem now is that the managers were not used to having to approve registrations in the app. Or before, because the system was so old, things just went through and everyone was happy. They have to approve things because we need to make sure that the data is right and that people have registered the right things and that their holidays are approved and all these things. So that's the challenge we're facing right now, and I don't think we can actually manage that one with cake. And so now we're going to carrots, and we'll go for the stick in December because we need our holiday approvals to be in place. So there are some really cool and very, very good adoption rates, and then we still need to nudge the behavioral side, especially from the managers who need to do their thing and need to understand how easy it is actually to do it. But thanks for your question.